back to Real Cast Fishing Podcast. Your host, Glenn, with City of Adelaide Fishing Field Team, COAF Field Team on YouTube. And this round, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Little Red Book of Fly Fishing. This time we're going to go through tips 36 through 40. Plus we're going to go back to our old iFish News Fishing Archive format, where we go with the tips, follow up on some Q&A that we had over the course of the past few days, if not weeks. And then some recent happenings, and then we'll close things out. All right, so bear with me as I do this one-man show fishing podcast. So let's start things off with the tip 36 from the Little Red Book of Fly Fishing. And it's going to be just a flick of the wrist. And what I'll do is I'll read the tip, and then I'll just point out a few things out of it. So let's go right into it. 36, just a flick of the wrist. Little things often make the difference between an average cast and an eye popper. Certified instructor Dan Wright offers this hint to add a couple long pulls to your distance. The crux move comes at the completion of the double haul. Just when you finish your normal haul, rotate your wrist sharply downward, ending with your thumb pointing toward the ground. This payoff, Wright assures us, is an extra acceleration that rocks the line through the guides. So I've been thinking about this one. I thought about it earlier today, and yeah. So you're doing your double haul, okay? And for those that are listening on the podcast, I'm just kind of demoing myself doing the double haul, basically that bungee cord technique where you go back and forth. At the end, flick your wrist till your thumb is basically pointing downward to the ground, and that's going to give you a little bit extra acceleration to get your line through the rod guides and basically shoot your line out there. So flick of the wrist, tip 36. I like that one. Keep that in your back pocket when you're double hauling. Okay, let's go to number 37. Remove the shackles. And in the book, it's showing individual looks like a female fly fisher woman fishing a creek, and it looks like she's got a surprised look. But bottom line, let's go right into the tip. Tip 37, remove the shackles. We've all watched this guy cast like a golfer rotating into his backswing. He rocks backward with his hands close together as if his wrists were in handcuffs. This stroke works well enough with a golf club, which doesn't have a fly line attached to it. But with a fly rod, the line prescribes a lazy sideways loop behind the angler's back. The forward cast often hits him behind the head. The cure is as simple. Hold the line hand in a relaxed position near the chest, well away from the rod. Keep the body square to the target, both eyes straight ahead. And once the rocking motion has ended and our angler becomes comfortable with the proper stance, he'll be ready to start learning the double haul, an advanced maneuver that actually does involve lifting the line hand up near the reel. So what that's doing is, just remember, you don't want to be golfing with your hands together when you're fly fishing. Instead, have the line in your hand close to your chest and allow that movement, or at least move your hands and whatnot in that cast, especially if you're going to be doing the double haul. So remember that. Remember this one? Move the shackles. Don't have your hands close together. It's not golf. Number 38, lose the tailing loop. The tailing loop is to a fly fisher what the slice is to a golfer, a common problem caused by a simple mechanical flaw. Both can ruin your game if you are accustomed to playing that second shot from an adjacent fairway, or you often find yourself untying wind knots on the riverbank. You probably know what I'm talking about. Golf pros will blame most slices on open club faces. As for tailing loop, when the fly and leader dip below your line on the forward cast, usually causing an untimely tangle, the most common cause is overpowering or punching the rod on the forward stroke. Don't feel bad, it's human nature. We've all been there. Trout are rising, I'm making my false cast, I've got a nice loop going, all I need is 10 more feet. So I give it a little more oomph and pow, bunched up again. In physics terms, this is actually caused when the rod tip travels on a concave path from the back cast to the forward cast. The line goes where the rod tip tells it to go, and when the rod tip travels a fairly even, flat, and steady path, the loop is uniform. When you overpower the rod, however, you flex it too much and actually shorten its length mid-stroke. That's what causes the rod to launch the line in a flat path where the tip end tails. All right, so we've all been guilty of the tailing loop. And what again, it's reminding you, at least from the Little Red Book of Fly Fishing standpoint, is that flat, steady path versus that bowed or concave path. You want to be able to maintain that flat path and keep that rod so that those loops will remain tight. If you start doing a more concave, slow, bendy, bowed path, and much the same way if you did the same thing with your hand flailing about past the 10 and 2, there's your reason for your tailing loop. So keep that in your back pocket. Keep that steady path. Don't over oomph or punch that rod at the end, because you're also causing that curved path. All right, number 39, fish like a snake. I remember this one just because the snake and the S, but we'll get to it. Okay, fish like a snake, tip 39. In the never-ending struggle to steal time from the current while presenting a dry fly, the serpent cast, often called an S cast, can be a most valuable tool. The notion is to put several coils or wiggles in the line when completing the forward cast. During the precious seconds it takes for the intervening currents to work the coils out of the line, your fly will have an extra drag-free float in the target zone. The S-cast isn't nearly as difficult as it might seem. Remember that the line always follows the motion of the rod tip. When delivering that cast, simply wiggle the rod tip like a brushstroke painting coils in the line. This tactic works particularly well when casting directly upstream, but it serves much the same purpose at any angle, as well as for nymphing. With practice, the stroke will become automatic. Signed, CM Charlie Meyer. Okay, so with that little wiggle at the end, give it a little coils at the tail end. It will straighten out as the current takes it, and just enough to keep drag-free drift is what you're looking for. I've used it, let me think, mainly when I'm actually fishing downstream. I'll cast it and wiggle my line just to slow it up so the fly will follow the bubble line that I'm fishing in a particular area. So, but it says here you can use it at an angle. So keep that in your back pocket. Okay, so I was saying we're going through tips 36 through 40 this round, and then we're going to go to our old format, some Q&A follow-ups, and then recent happenings. Number 40 will be the last one for this round. Will your casts, as with a golf shot or shooting an arrow from a bow or even breaking clay pigeons with a shotgun, it's important to visualize where you want the fly to cast to go. Taking even an extra half second or so before you let the cast go will help you will your cast into the right spot. Yes, you want to be quick and react to opportunity, but if you can't clearly pick out your target and make a measured cast in the split second, just as you would shooting clay targets, it will be a game of close but no cigar. Kind of think of it like an archer or your sight picture when you're shooting. And like in this example of clay pigeon, visualize where you're going to cast and make that cast. Keep that one in your back pocket. All right. So that was tips 36 through 40. Next episode, I'll go through 41 on. We may just do these short ones, but I kind of like this format because it's not just talking ahead of me reading out of the book itself. Let's go with some of these questions. First one, slow retrieve in winter. This one came out when I posted a striped bass fishing one where I was using a faster retrieve, and I was fishing the tail race at Denison Dam. Just up the road from us, and I was using a fast retrieve. The fish were wanting this, and the question was, is a slow retrieve hold true also in winter? Well, I would say for trout, yes, slow retrieves, especially on those really cold days where it's freezing and the temperatures are remaining low and not really going up in the day. A slow retrieve definitely does make a difference. But for stripers, it's really they're a fast retrieve or just a finding that pattern is more important versus a slow retrieve. If they're feeding on bait fish and whatnot, that fast retrieve, they're still going to be wanting movement and striking. So my answer to that one was with a slow retrieve applies for trout, not so much for striped bass. They get hungry all the time and they'll be hitting like crazy. Number 2, what tippet was I using when I posted a video on another striped bass, again fishing the tail race at Denison? Tippet I was using was 17-pound test. And what I did was I was using my do-it-yourself striped bass fly leader. It's one where I just take 2 sections of line, mono, a 30-pound butt section, 60 inches, and then I use a barrel knot to attach it to a 17-pound section, about 4 foot, 48 inches. And that's what I was using for that particular outing over there at, in this case, Denison again. There was another one on the producer fishing fly. Was I be able to do a how-to video on how to tie one? I did post that one. It's a quick tie video, just about a minute long. Gives you an idea of how to tie it. But I do suggest to go to flatoutfishing.com. Zach Flat, who's the originator of that fly, has more details to include the particulars for what to purchase to make to make that fly. The key takeaway out of that fly was to get the appropriate yarn. The yarn be velvety smooth white Aran is what it's called. And then the other thing about the producer fishing fly was to make sure you mash down the feathers to give it a nice wrap around the hook. Those were 2 key things that I picked up. Okay, and then to catch up on some of the recent things that'll be happening in our area, over there in Denison Dam, Waterloo, or correction, Denison, city of Denison, just up the road from us. The Waterloo Pond has been stocked this last week. And that's a small one, but they really stock it several times over the season. So you might give that one your back pocket if you're able to make it up there. Pottsboro was stocked the week before. And that's a fairly good-sized pond, more rectangular. There's a little pier area as well as a bank area, well easily accessed. And that one usually holds some trout, usually longer than a couple of weeks. And then just down the road from us here, Bethany Lakes, here in the city of Allen, was there just last week and still saw some folks catching a few trout. So the trout are still there, just you just got to play the pattern. In this case, the bait by ear. Someone was saying bread was working. Then it turned out night crawlers were working also. So, and then I did see some folks using some power bait. This upcoming week, I think Possum Kingdom over there by Grayford is going to be stocked again with some more trout. Leela, Lake Louisville Ecological Learning Area, it's getting a trout stocking January 2nd. And additionally, the Trinity is getting stocked over there in Fort Worth by Clear Lake Park, also January 2nd. Good thing about there is that one is an augmented stocking, so it has Texas Parks and Wildlife stocking it, as well as the Trinity Regional Water District who's stocking it. And usually when they stock, they actually stock it with some larger trout. So that's one to keep in your back pocket when you're out there. Okay, apologize for the coughing fits here and there, but I hope I was able to get you information you needed this round. Specifically, we're talking tips 36 through 40 on the Little Red Book of Fly Fishing. Talk to some Q&A, get some of those questions and answers from these past few days, weeks out there, and then some recent happenings coming up. Other than that, that's pretty much all we had this round. I'll plan to get another one out here sooner than later, just kind of playing the schedule by ear. And then do check out, if you're not able to watch the live stream, I recast this as a podcast. We're on iHeartRadio, we're on Spotify, we're also on Amazon Music, I believe, as well as Spreaker. All right, all for now. Next time we'll catch y'all later. Good luck and good fishing.